Professor Malcolm, do you believe that victims of domestic abuse are safer if their abusers are permitted to carry guns while they're the subject of temporary restraining orders? You have to turn your microphone on.
Sorry. I think that to know that that person actually is an abuser, he's entitled, and I'm assuming it's a he's entitled to have a hearing first before his gun or any other weapon is taken away.
Doesn't the issuance of a temporary restraining order suggest in most cases a hearing?
It does, but not in these bills. They are able to accuse the person, their guns or weapons are taken away, and then they have the hearing.
But in these bills, we're talking about convicted stalkers, convicted domestic violence perpetrators, and those who are subject in the Blumenthal bill to a temporary restraining order. In each of those cases, aren't we talking about a court hearing before that determination?
We have been in the past. I think that this law would change it so that in order to protect the woman, there is this opportunity to make the allegation that guns get taken away and then they have the hearing.
There's no question that there can be ex parte hearings because in some instances, the person who's the subject of the order won't appear. That's a reality. I've been through that many years ago when I practiced law. So are we in a situation now where a woman terrorized by a boyfriend or former spouse is at his mercy as long as he refuses to come to court by your analysis?
No, I think once you agree to hold the hearing, if he doesn't show up, then that at least you've given him the opportunity to be heard. So I think that provides, a fair chance for the evidence to come out on both sides. That's a concern.
And once the temporary restraining order is issued to protect the woman, we're using case of woman here, to protect the woman from the stalker, the abuser, the person who's perpetrating domestic violence, once that's issued, do you still quarrel with the notion that we should, at that point, take the gun away from that person?
No, I think that once there's been, a fair hearing and evidence has been presented, then if this person does seem to be really posing a threat, I think that that's fair.
I'd like to ask Dr. Campbell what you think about this argument of the course of hearings and such while we're dealing with perhaps a woman who has been terrorized or has evidence of abuse to present to the court?
In order to obtain a temporary order of protection or an emergency order, they're sometimes called in some states, there is a hearing. A judge has to issue that temporary order. The permanent or long-term orders there's a fuller hearing, and that's when perpetrators have the opportunity to appear.
I've been through this. Anyone who's had a domestic practice has gotten the phone call, I'm scared of this guy. It doesn't happen often, thank goodness. It wasn't in my practice, but it does happen. The first instinct of a lawyer, the first instinct of most persons, protect the person who's being threatened. Argue it out in court later on, but first, protect the person who's being threatened, the children who are being threatened. I think that's the premise of this whole discussion.
Right, and a judge does have to issue that. A judge, like we've heard here, who is concerned with a level playing field in issuing that order, so wants to hear evidence before that temporary order is issued.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for this hearing and Senator Klobuchar for sponsoring this important bill, which I certainly support in its entirety. It is sad to comment in this day and age that this is one of the few hearings on the subject, and that it's been over a year since we have seriously debated this matter on the floor of the United States Senate. While gun violence perpetrated by criminals, facilitated by straw purchasers, sadly the result of a system which doesn't protect victims like mothers, women, and children, continues. Thank you for calling our attention to it today. I hope it'll inspire us to do something.